Israel's military continues its offensive in Gaza in response to the thousands of rockets fired by Hamas into Israel over the last 2 weeks. By Saturday, Israeli troops discovered more than a dozen tunnels used by Hamas to carry out attacks. I spoke to Israel's Minister of Economy and a member of the Security Cabinet, Naftali Bennett, earlier. Mr. Minister, there are the images of Palestinian civilian casualties that obviously get broadcast all over the screens. How do you combat the idea that Israel is ending up, not intentionally, but ending up with a lot of civilian casualties in Gaza? And what's the response that you give when that is brought up as the reason that Israel is an aggressor here?
You tell the truth. Hamas is deliberately killing its own women and children. That's what's going on. You know, the UN discovered Thursday morning 20 missiles within a school. This is an official UN declaration. They found 20 missiles in a school in Gaza. So Hamas is hiding missile launchers within homes, within classrooms, within hospitals, and putting women and children around those launchers and then shooting missiles on Israeli towns. And then when we respond, those women and children sometimes get hurt. You just have to spell it out. It's not unlike Bashar al-Assad, who's killing his own people. Hamas is also killing its own people.
The ground operation is obviously intended to stop some of the rocket fire, but also to go after the secret underground tunnel system that is far more elaborate than I think most people understand. Define what is the objective going into Gaza. How far will you go? When will you know you've succeeded?
We'll go as far as necessary. We have no limitations, and we will win. You know, some of my own family is fighting right now, and many of my friends. It's part of being a Jew in Israel. We've been in this country for 3,800 years, well before Islam or Hamas came to the world, and we'll be here thousands of years after Hamas disappears. The objective is to clean up those tunnels, these terror tunnels that lead terrorists underground into Israeli towns. Just imagine if you're sitting on your in your kitchen and suddenly you see in your backyard a hole appear and 40 terror commandos coming out and kidnapping you. That's something that we cannot accept. That's something that we're solving right now.
There is a perception that the people of Gaza are under siege from Israel. The fact is, you supply them electricity, you send food into Gaza. Many of the supplies they get actually come from Israel. And yet the people seem to not, I guess, realize that. Your battle, however, is not just with Hamas. Last week you held up a rocket that had basically an Iranian fingerprint on it. Who's the real battle with, Naftali?
We're battling radical, maniacal Islamic terror groups that are led by Iran, but not only. This is, you know, if we don't win this battle, you're going to have Hamas's and Al-Qaeda's and ISIS all around the world. We happen to be placed in a very difficult location where the free world touches the radical Islamic world that is determined to create this huge caliphate all across the world, everywhere, you know, from Spain to Paris to Israel. And we're at the very front lines, and we do expect you know, the world to stand behind the right. There is right and wrong. There is a just side and an evil side. If you deliberately target civilians on the one hand, while on the other hand, we're trying to defend our people, there is right and wrong, and we expect the world to stand behind the democracy and the open society.
Are you satisfied with the U.S. response and their call for restraint on both sides? Is that a fair request on the part of the U.S., or would you like something a little stronger from U.S. officials?
The United States is our biggest and best friend, and we appreciate this connection. However, to ask Israel to restrain itself after receiving over 1,000 rockets on our towns, I think that's not exactly the right message. I think Israel and anyone should not be expected to incur and take hits forever. We offered one ceasefire. We offered another ceasefire. Keep in mind where we are. We're well less than 0.5%. Our land represents well less than 0.5% of the entire Islamic world. We're about 6 million Jews in Israel, covered by 300 million Muslims, and we're defending ourselves. And to ask us to restrain ourselves against a radical Islamic group, I'm not quite sure that's the right message. In any case, I'll be very clear. Israel uses an Iron Dome to protect itself, but right now we're moving from the Iron Dome to an Iron Fist, and we'll fight anyone who wants to destroy the Jewish state in Israel.
Naftali Bennett, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you. Keep your head down, be safe, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, my friend, and thanks to all the viewers who are so supportive of Israel.
We've got a civilian plane shot down, and there's war on the Israeli border, but the immigration crisis on our own border rages on. One congressman is trying to find out what's happening to the illegals that are brought into his district. I'll be talking to Oklahoma Congressman Jim Bridenstine when we come back.